Chad Daybell was the leader of a small doomsday cult. He created a following after publishing a series of books about his near-death experiences. He would often attend prepper conventions of people preparing for the end times. He was a Mormon who was kicked out of the church because of his extreme beliefs. While attending a prepper convention, Daybell was approached by a blonde-haired, blue-eyed fan named Lori Vallow. The two hit it off and started having an affair. Both were married, but soon both their spouses would be dead, as would Lori's children, JJ and Tylee. Chad and Lori then quickly got married in Hawaii. Eventually, people in their lives caught on to what was happening. There was an intense investigation and search for the missing children. They were found buried in Chad's backyard. Then, the body of Chad's wife was exhumed. What followed were 2 trials and the convictions of Chad and Lori for the murders of JJ, Tylee, and Chad's wife, Tammy, who was murdered in their home. Now, that home has been sold, and tonight, we go inside with Nate Eaton from the East Idaho News to take a look at the place where the leader of the doomsday cult, Chad Daybell, raised his family and murdered his wife. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And we've got a big hour in store for you. Red tie, you know it's verdict day. But first, I want to talk about Chad Daybell. And how did that whole story start? The beginning was a search for missing children, JJ and Tylee, the children of Lori Daybell. Now, the search started for JJ because his grandma and grandpa missed him, and they knew something was wrong, so there was a wellness check. Then it turned into Lori disappears, and she just, you know, vanishes. They track her down. She's not saying anything about where these children are. And then their bodies are discovered, buried in the backyard of Lori's new husband, the prophet, Chad Daybell. And at that point, everyone's worst fears were coming true in all of this. But the story got bigger and bigger. The death of Chad's wife, Tammy. She was murdered in her own home. Could you imagine, like, your home, this is where you raise your family with your husband, and your life is taken by your husband in that home? So tonight we're going to take a look inside of that home, because we've never done that. Nate Eaton from EastIdahoNews.com is going to join us in just a minute. But first, I want to show you what he did, because he's the one who's been covering the story from the beginning, first of all, but also on the property and in the house. Let's take a look.
Well, here we are outside Chad Daybell's former home in Salem. This is actually the closest that I'll ever get to the home. I did go up to the door one time early on when the case was still active, and there was a sign on the door that said no media. And the new owners have invited me to come and go through it with them, and I'm here with Erica, my wife. As you can see, right now there's no trespassing signs on the fences. There's a few around the property. They don't want people coming and going here. But it's a busy road. Let's just show. I mean, this is a busy highway. For those of you that haven't been out here, of course, right now there's not a lot of cars coming and going, but the speed limit out here is 50 miles an hour, and it's on a busy intersection, so there's folks coming, there's drivers coming each way. While we come out here, to give you an idea, so this is Chad's home. Right over here was Chad's home. And Emma, his daughter, on the day that Chad was arrested, was staying over there. So you heard a lot during the trial about the kitty corner property. It's right there. So, you know, it's about a 1 or 2 minute walk to get over there. And this driveway is where Chad Daybell was parked. Come on up here, honey. The morning that police came to serve that search warrant on June 9th of 2020. If you look over here, I don't know how well you can see, and I don't know what the shrubbery was like that morning, the branches, but that tree right through here, underneath that tree is where, or near that tree is where JJ was found. So in court, we heard multiple people testify that Chad was in the car, probably right here where I'm standing, and was looking over his shoulder back there. If this big tree right here didn't have the hanging branches at the time, he would have a perfect shot to see what was happening back there. Right over here was where the fire pit is, on the other side of this fence. And that's where they found the remains of Tylee, and then JJ was further back. Tammy normally parked on this driveway. So can you see that now? So people testified that Alex Cox, according to cell phone data, likely parked his truck down this street. So we'll keep walking. This is where the cars would park. And so the plan was, most likely, that Tammy would park here, that Alex Cox would come down this street, not very far, and he would be able to shoot her here, as she was parked along this way. That's not what happened that night. That October 9th of 2019. She didn't park here, but Alex Cox was still parked down there. Instead, she parked around the side of the house. So when the plan didn't go as planned, Alex Cox, I'm assuming here based on testimony, likely came running across this property to shoot at her over on this driveway. And remember that Attorney General Investigator Edwards testified that the weapon he had, if it got jostled about at all, if it got moved or whatever, or the pins got shaken, it wouldn't fire. And sure enough, it didn't fire. So this is the front entryway. You can see there's this little entry before we go inside the home. The power has been turned off, so it's dark in here. But this is the front room. You can see there's a fireplace right here. The buyers told me that, you know, when they went through it, there was obviously stuff here. In fact, throughout this video, you might see some of the photos that they took when they were going through the house. But this is the room where they were informed, or when the neighbors came over that to, you know, bring gifts after Tammy had passed away. This is where Chad was. This is where their son, Garth, was. Of course, Emma didn't live here at the time, but the day after, a few days after Chad Daybell was arrested, Emma and her son, her husband, Joseph Murray, moved into the home. So they took possession of it. And so they've been living here for the past 4 years. So we'll just walk through this, again, the front room. You can see there's some light fixtures that probably came with the house, and lights on the wall. It is an older home. And then did you show the fireplace, honey? Older fireplace here. It looks like this is white rock. And if we go down here, the hallway, I'll tell you, it's much smaller than the photos, in my opinion, much smaller than the photos showed us in the court. I mean, this is pretty narrow hallway.
This side of the house.
Yeah, there's a bathroom. Only one bathroom on this side. This looks like a girl's room. Just, I say that because of the pink walls. But there's another room here to the left. You can come on in here. Closet. Now, this next room is the master. And this is the room where Tammy Daybell was murdered. And from the photos, again in court, the photos we saw, the photos I've seen since, the room seemed much bigger than it is. The bed was here. I believe it was on this side that they said Tammy fell out of the bed, which she did not. So this is the room. This is a closet, and it's not very big. But what's interesting to me is right across the hall. This is how many steps? 1, 2. These are not narrow hallways. This took me 2 steps. Is where Garth Daybell This was his room. From what I understand, this was his room. And he was in this room when his mom died. Oh, well, I guess that's the question. He believes he was in his room when she died in her sleep. He was actually likely working at the haunted mill when she was killed. And when he came home, he says he checked into this room. He saw 2 lumps in the bed. It was assumed it was his parents. Came in here and went on YouTube. But one of the most surprising things is how close these rooms were. You could hear, I mean, a simple conversation you could hear across the hall. So this was Garth's room, and this was the master room. Again, kind of eerie. It feels kind of empty.
And if someone was coughing, I imagine you would be able to hear them very loudly.
Right.
With that family.
Being so close. And I mean, the walls are, I guess there is some space here, but this is a closet. But I mean, you would hear it. So this is where Tammy Daybell took her last breath. So we'll walk down here to the kitchen area. Again, there were photos given to us that kind of show what it looked like. This is the kitchen. Come over here, and I don't know how well you can see with the light, but if you look out this window, you can see the pasture, you can see the outbuildings, the red barn area. You can see where those bodies were buried. And, you know, I guess if you don't know what's out there, you don't know. You wouldn't think anything of it. But you've got the 2 windows. Chad Daybell knew. Chad Daybell knew every time he came here to the sink and looked out there that there were 2 children buried back there. Tammy, though, you know, she didn't know. Now this is the kitchen. This is the main part of the home. The next part of the house is attached, and this was the big question during the trial. Is it a 2-story home? Is it a 1? Legally, technically speaking, this is a 1-story portion of the home. To get to the cozy cone, as they called it that because on the movie Cars, they're saying it looked like the cozy cone on the movie Cars. But if we come out here, again, we don't have power, so this is the garage, which was full of stuff from what we're told when the buyers came through. So this was the garage, and then this area, you want to come in here, and this is storage, you know, just shelves, older storage area. And then what's interesting, you remember Chad Daybell writing about feeling like Harry Potter trapped under the stairs, and he was able to get out and see his goddess lover? There is an area under the stairs here. I don't know if he was referring to this, but kind of interesting that there was this area in here. And again, this will all be torn down by the new buyers. But if we go up here, this is the door to the cozy cone. So we'll head up, and I'll try to show you, you know, in here is shelving, a lot of storage. This is where Chad Daybell was served the warrant on June 9th of 2020. And he stayed in that master bedroom till Tammy died, and then he moved to Hawaii. His children then moved in. He then moved back in the house after Lori was arrested. And he moved up here. And he was sleeping over here in a bed when he was served that warrant. Now, John Pryor made a big deal that no one could really live up here. There's multiple power outlets. Do you want to show those, honey? There's 3 over here. There's a 4th here. There's 2 lights. There's a light switch. It's pretty warm up here. I don't know about the AC and heating. There's a 5th plug, though. You could bring in a fan. You could bring in a space heater. It's kind of warm up here right now. And someone could definitely stay up here. Let's show you the view out the windows. So this is the front. Can't really see much out that window. But if we go over here, And I believe they showed in court the view from this window. You've got your eye on where JJ was buried, and you've got your eye on where Tylee was buried. You can see both very clearly. In here was the garage where the tools were and where the police searched, and this, you can see that the cement needs repair, but this was where the tools were kept. If we go in here, the new owners tell me that when they came, this said Spring Creek Books. This may have been where they stored the books and kind of ran the business. There was signs and it was stacked with books. And an interesting sign that was here, probably from before Chad's time. This is calf heaven. Idea is to preserve life. It is not easy, but a fun challenge. God be with us. Thanks. I don't know what that means, but the owners tell us that this sign was over there, and when they came, it was moved. To give you a frame of reference, she was here, and JJ was right over here. And they found JJ first. So when they found him, everybody kind of stopped, went over there, realized they had found him, called the coroner. Chad was arrested down the street. They worked to remove him, and then the focus changed to right here.
I don't know about you, but for me, this is eye-opening, and now sort of completes the picture of what you imagined during the course of those trials. Let's bring him in. Joining me tonight, news director for East Idaho News, Nate Eaton. Nate, great work. Way to tell the story to us, but also incredible videography by your wife as well, like capturing those, the way she captured those images. Let me ask you this. When you're inside the house and you're in that master bedroom, do you think there's any chance that Garth was there at the time of the murder? From being inside, is that even possible? If someone struggled for half a second, that you wouldn't notice some level of commotion going on there?
That's a good question, Vinny. You know, he worked at a haunted house near the home, and Tammy died on October 19th, so, 11, 12 days before Halloween. He says he was there till really late, midnight, 1 o'clock. It's possible he came home, looked in the bedroom, thought he saw his mom and dad in the bed. His mom could have been killed by then. There was a question that came up of maybe Chad Daybell wasn't even at the house when he returned home. If Tammy was killed while he was at work, did Chad Daybell stay in that bed the entire night with a dead body? When did it happen? And these are all questions. I went through the house again yesterday with investigators who had never been back since June of 2020. These are questions they have too, and they were able to, let me know their thoughts about what may or may not have happened. Garth testified that he wasn't there, that when his mom died, or that she died in the middle of the night when he was in his bedroom. But there's that murky timeline there, Vinny, that we may never know.
So how about Alex Cox? Is there a way, again, from being inside the house, that Alex Cox could get into the house while Chad's there with his wife and she wouldn't notice? Do you believe that it's possible that Alex Cox could have been in the house that night?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We know that his cell phone was at a church about 3 miles away. Well, I should say 3 minutes away. And it stopped pinging around 10:45 that night for about 45 minutes, I believe. So realistically, Chad Daybell could have left the home. Tammy could have been in bed. They know that she was in her bed playing on her phone, playing a game on her phone. They've pulled the data. Chad could have left the home. It's a 3-minute drive to the church, picked Alex up, brought Alex back to the house. If Tammy Daybell's in the home and it's dark, she's in her bed, she could have easily, been smothered right there. Alex could have come in the home with Chad, smothered her in the bed. She would have never known. Chad then could have taken him back to the church. And sure enough, within the hour, his cell phone starts to ping as he's back on a highway driving toward Idaho Falls away from the area.
And that timeline takes Garth out of the house because he's working during that window of time.
Correct. Yeah, he said he didn't get home till around midnight, 1 o'clock.
Wow. So let's talk about the house and where the children are buried. We believe that is this taking place when Tammy's not there and Tammy is somewhere else? Like how is it possible? Because everything's so close to each other. I would think if you're in the house and someone pulls up on the driveway, you're going to hear it. You're going to notice it.
Right. Well, as far as the kids, I don't think the kids were ever inside the home. If you look at that property, what surprised me is how many entrances to the back pasture area there are. 3 gates, easy access. If you have a pickup truck like Alex Cox did, and the first person to die was Tylee, and there's these outbuildings, these sheds, which you can see there, that red building, that's one of the outbuildings that are there. You could have easily taken a body back there, stored the body. I don't think Tammy Daybell was going back into the pasture a lot. She was a school librarian supporting the family, so she's probably leaving the house around 7:30 in the morning, getting back around 4:30. It's the fall. It gets dark here around 5:30. She's preparing dinner for her family. So, you know, it's possible that the day that Tylee, the last time she was seen, and the day that she was burned on that property, Alex Cox could have shown up right after Tammy went to work. They could have started to burn her body. Chad Daybell sent that text about how he shot a raccoon and he was going to bury it in the property and disposed of her there. And then with JJ was wrapped in plastic and duct tape. Alex Cox could have simply pulled his pickup truck back there. Chad Daybell could have already had a hole dug. They could have simply put his body in the ground, covered it with dirt, and left.
Yeah, and she's at work supporting the family. Wow.
Right.
All right, Nadine's going to stay with us. We've got more coming up. The demolition of the house. You're going to see the murder house get knocked down, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates the tragic story of 13-year-old Madeline Soto, sexually abused and murdered allegedly by her mom's boyfriend, Stephen Stearns. And now we are looking at Stearns' police interview as police confront him with pictures from his phone of Stearns sexually abusing Madeline. We investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan
In every story, in every trial, every case, there's at least 2 sides to it.
to dive into the latest
Oh my God.
and breaking true crime stories
This was a very targeted, very personal attack.
inside
I've never seen that in a discovery. I've been incarcerated 3 years.
and outside of the courtroom.
She's a psychopath.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan investigates tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Hi, Dad.
Hello?
Are you okay?
So there's section the property.
The house there?
Yeah. Yeah. So my friends will be talking to you.
Okay. What, are they in the house?
No, they're out in the property.
Are they seizing stuff again?
They're searching.
Chad Daybell's last few moments of freedom there on the phone with his wife, Lori Daybell, who was in jail at the time. They're searching the property, they find the children, and it's game over for Chad Daybell. Well, guess what happened? The home where Tammy Daybell was murdered, right next to the property where the children were found, demolished. And Nate Eaton from EastIdahoNews.com was there for it. Take a look.
We are out here at Chad Daybell's property, and it is being demolished. I'm going to turn this around. Now, these are all
construction crews who are donating their time and their crews to tear down the buildings here at Daybell's property in Salem. And they started within the past hour or so, and they are really moving. So here's the house. This is the home. And right now they're focusing on the outbuildings that were on the property. Okay, and here they go. How you doing?
Just gonna let you know here in just a minute, once he starts getting a bunch of stuff, we'll have trucks start coming right through here, just so you guys.
Great. Thank you. And there is where Chad Daybell slept and stayed. Peggy, you got pictures? The Cozy Cone, where Chad Daybell likely had hundreds of conversations with Lori Vallow when she was in jail. They would text each other, well, not text each other, they would call each other. They would communicate back and forth with each other. And you can see behind me that that area has been flattened. And there's the house where Chad Daybell stayed, wrote his books, made plans for his future after he killed his wife, Tammy Daybell, and killed 2 children and buried them on this very property in Salem, Idaho. Just 5 years ago, Tammy Daybell was a devoted wife, worker, mother, who hung laundry on that very line behind me. And now the home where she lived with her family is being destroyed. Everything has been cleared, flattened. You think about everything that happened in this home, the good times before all of this, the good times with many families over generations. How many dinners were served here, Christmas gatherings, birthday parties, visits, sleepovers, and then a site of such horrific evil. And now it's crumbling to the ground. Many of you asking what will be done with the property once the house is done. By tonight, probably by this afternoon, all of the debris will be cleared and it will sit here for some time. The new owners are trying to make plans for what's next. They say they want to consult with the victims' families, get input, and do some sort of memorial. So that's kind of the plan for now. They're moving so efficiently, these guys. What they're doing is they have multiple trucks lined up, and when they bring up the debris, they're piling it, and then they're loading it in the trucks, and then the trucks are taking it to a recycling center that will go through all of the debris and recycle what they can and then destroy the rest of it. But remember, all of these guys are doing this out of their own, generosity. These companies are volunteering their time and their manpower and their machines and their tools and their equipment, all of it to help here at the property.
And still with me, News Director for EastIdahoNews.com, Nate Eaton. Nate, you know what really strikes me? And I'm not from that part of the country. Haven't been there, but need to get there, right? The contrast between the good and the evil, right? The evil that took the lives of those 3 innocent people, 2 children and a devoted mother and wife. And then the good, the new owners concerned about the victims, not just about turning a profit, the people who donated their times. Talk to me a little bit more about the big picture, like this story in that community.
Oh, it's huge, Vinny. There were people driving by all day, stopping to take photos, some getting out of their cars with tears running down their faces. This was a home that has been there for generations. Before the Daybells lived there, this was the gathering place in the neighborhood where kids would get together to play softball, kickball. They'd have popsicles on summer nights. It was a fun place. It was a great place. And then it turned into such horror. So the neighbors, they knew it needed to come down. They wanted it to come down, but it's still just a mix of emotions across the board. All of those guys out there volunteered their time, their machines, their gasoline. They spent the entire day tearing down that property and didn't get a penny for it. I mean, that shows you the community coming together for a stack of pizzas showed up for the construction workers. The couple that bought this, who wants to be anonymous, they started a nonprofit simply so they could buy it. And within 2 weeks of finalizing the purchase of the home, it's torn down. So it is, trying to make the best of a really horrible situation while still looking for the good that can come out of this tragedy.
I don't know if you've spoken to them recently, but how about Tammy's family? How are they doing?
They're doing okay. I spoke with them. They were a little conflicted, but they knew it needed to come down. Who showed up today too, Vinny, was Chad Daybell's brother and sister-in-law, Matt Daybell. They live near here, and I spoke with the sister-in-law, Heather. She said once that bulldozer went for the master bedroom where Tammy Daybell died, she started to cry. That it hit her that her own sister-in-law died in the room that was now being torn down. Larry and Kay Woodcock, JJ's grandparents, they say they're so relieved. One part that I did not know would be happening until it happened, that big tree next to where JJ was buried, that's the one thing Kay and Larry did not want to be there anymore. It just reminded them of JJ so much. They tore that tree down too, so that was taken out. And so tonight, the land looks drastically different than just 12 hours ago.
Eye-opening, and I think a big chapter in this story, this tragedy in East Idaho, where things like this just don't happen. They don't. Nate Eaton, thank you so much for sharing the video with us. EastIdahoNews.com, and you can check out Nate taking the investigators through the house. That's another fascinating look at all this. So have a great weekend, and nice to see you.